All right, Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn, The Final Empire. This is going to be my chapter by chapter review. I'm going to be going over the first 10 chapters. I have a version like this on TikTok, but since I feel like TikTok might be banned next year, I decided to do this video format for it. I got my Kindle version open and I do have a physical copy. I am almost done with it, uh, but for this video, I'm going to be referencing my notes. So actually, let me just pull that out and we can get started. So, before we do, spoilers for anything that might be in the book and spoilers for anything that might be mentioned in, well, yeah, the whole book. Like I'm only talking about the first 10 chapters. I might, talk about what happens later on, but, depending on how these videos go, I might for future books just read up to 10 chapters and then do a video so that the information can be fresh because I'm just going off of what I wrote down. So for the prologue, I put it is a solid start. Kelser seems like a badass, and he is. In the prologue, he like takes on a house by himself because he mainly wanted to protect a young girl from being taken advantage of. So he's a solid guy. Chapter 1. Sounds like there's going to be some heist hijinks going on in this book. We get introduced to Vin, who is like the brooding, kind of like Batman or Strider type of character because of how she grew up. She had to grow up tough, especially with her brother, who was tough on her. And she grew up literally in the streets, and she has all this bad luck going on. She's in a thieving crew that tries to take advantage of her. She has all this bad luck, but she actually uses luck as like the way she describes it. She like uses it as a power. So I was really curious as to what that was. And then in chapter 2, it's nothing but lies and betrayals for Vin. That kind of like reminded me of Dune because of the lies upon lies and the plans upon plans. Like but that's pretty much later in this book. But that kind of reminds me of Dune. There's gonna be other Dune references or things that remind me of Dune in this book, or at least in my reviews. Uh, they're doing their little scheme, and then Vin feels like there's something off, and I'm like, well, yeah, you should pay attention to your instincts. You're the main character, but that's not really fair for her. We get a sense of how she grew up with Reen, her older brother, and he like sucked as an older brother apparently. And then we get introduced to Steel Inquisitors in this book, and immediately I was the the Inquisitors from Star Wars, and pretty much yes, like the Inquisitors from Star Wars. I looked up some fan art immediately, and yeah, they look very similar. It's not I'm not knocking it at all. I actually really like that. That is what further got me interested in reading the rest of this and reading this book. Chapter 3. So what I got here is that in chapter 3, Ulef, Camon, and Reen all suck as characters. It doesn't mean that they're like badly written characters. They're just they're meant to be bad characters that you're meant to not like. And Ulef, not really too much. I just really didn't like that he betrayed Vin the way he did. And then Kelser, confirmed being a badass, steps in and saves Rin and essentially recruits her to his crew. And we get a good sense of what this is where we get the introduction of what allomancy is in the book. So chapter 4, this is where the team gets assembled. We get introduced to I think to Breeze, to Clubs, to Ham. I think Marsh we also get introduced here. But yeah, we get the team assembled, and then we find out what the target is, which is going to end up being the Lord Ruler, which is basically the hero god emperor of this book. So we'll see. We're going to see how that pans out. Chapter 5. So In chapter 5, we get to see the magic system in action, which is in the badass scene where Kelsier like infiltrates a house to try to steal Atrium. And I really like the action in this. You know, he's just taking out guards left and right. And it reminds me of Assassin's Creed, especially Kelsier. It reminds me of Ezio from, I think, Revelations, Assassin's Creed Revelations, because, you know, they mentioned that he's like older. But yeah, really solid chapter for the action in it so far. And chapter 6. Not much going on in this chapter from what I have here. It's just that it's more planning on how to take down the Lord Ruler. Chapter 7. So in chapter 7, we talk more about allomancy and using metals. And specifically for pewter, to me, it seems like it would taste like cinnamon. This is another Dune reference because I don't remember them mentioning taste at all in the book, but because of Dune, every time there's like a drug or a substance that enhances your powers or your senses or your abilities in general, I just immediately think of Dune. In this chapter, Vin gets a gaming tutorial on how to use her powers, and I really like the physics of the magic system in this book. That's another selling point that this book, that a lot of people say in their reviews, is that the magic system is really good, and it is. I like the pushing and pulling in one direction of the metals. You can't just manipulate them outright like Magneto. And I like that it's also based on your physical weight. Like if something weighs heavier than you, it's going to move you instead of you moving it. So really like that. Chapter 8, we see mist wraiths, like actual mist wraiths in the mists. I forgot to mention that. That's a main thing in this book, that there's mist everywhere in the night. They're really, really creepy, but I really like that as a like not animal. I don't want to call them animal, like as a creature. I like creatures like that. I also like how nonchalant Kelsier is about everything. The Mist Wraith being, taking out people left and right. He's just nonchalant about it. Again, poor Vin. She mentions her brother again and how much he sucked as a brother, but to the point where I'm starting to get suspicious. If you mention a character that we have no idea and how bad he is, like how bad they mentioned her brother a bunch of times so far, and it's barely chapter 8. So this is making me think that he's gonna end up pulling an Itachi move like in Naruto. He's gonna end up being like, yeah, he's the bad brother that treated you bad, but he did that for good reasons, and he's actually the good guy. You know what I mean? So we'll see if that happens. I haven't gotten to it so far, but it's a trilogy. We'll see. I'm putting money on it. So chapter 9, we get another good little training session to get used to the magic system, and then Vin gets a haircut. Vin's getting her Pretty Woman moment, and so that she can infiltrate the nobility and just do some espionage. So that's what's going on here. And then last chapter for this video is chapter 10. We get more time with Breeze, and I like Breeze as a character because he makes being a soother seem like it's an underrated sleeper build. Like it's a it's a difference between being able to just use a certain power and being a master at the certain power. It's kind of like those videos in Elden Ring where like, oh, use this build, because it may seem like it's weak, but it's actually super powerful if you know how to use it. That's essentially what Breeze is in this chapter. And that's going to be it for this video. So yeah, for sure I'm going to finish up this series, and then we'll Mistborn. I'm going to finish up the book. And then for the next book that I read, I'm going to stick to try reading like 10 chapters and then reviewing it so that the information stays fresh on my mind. But that's going to be it for now. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.